So today is the next video, the 51st video of my English recordings, and for now I have no special topic to talk, so I'm going to explore some topics, small ideas, maybe like 3-5 minutes long ideas, and I will just put several of these ideas in this particular topic. And one of the interesting ideas that I have is the next plan about practicing my English skills, because at some times I feel like my brain just get the right word for me, for the idea I want to express, without going into Russian expression of this idea first. So, and this looks like my brain tries to find the English word that I have, which will be the best candidate for expressing my idea. And for this purpose, I need the active vocabulary. Again, English active vocabulary, but for this particular purpose, I need to activate maybe the English vocabulary on its own, like get the words and then try to create the text that contains all these words, like something that united by one particular topic, not just separate sentences for each word, but the sentences that are linked together into the whole topic. And it will be interesting because before I didn't think that I can create such type of what of texts. This is really the creativity. It's like the author writes a book, and I always said when someone advised me to write my own texts with the words from some particular area, and then learn this text by heart and repeat them again and again. This way practicing my spoken English. And I usually answer them that if I could create texts this way, I would possibly have very fluent English right now, and I wouldn't need any practice in English at all. So right now I feel like I have this creativity skill. Creativity may be something like percentage of the creativity that I can release in my mind, starting from 0 to 100% for Dickens, Pushkin, and other stuff. And before I felt like I have only 0% of this creativity, but right now I think I have about 5 or 10% of this creativity, because I was able to record without previous to record 50 English videos on some random topics, not retelling someone else's stories, but talking about my own ideas. And I was able to write down my thoughts in English, and I even created this translation for «Жди меня» poem by Konstantin Simonov, and in the end, I like this translation very much, because in the beginning I had this, like, what's the word for okay, that's an interesting word. I will check it later, but I was not sure. Okay, I don't like it. I felt like when I had an interesting form for the rhythm of the sentence, I had problem with the content in this form. The great poets create the ideal combination of the form and of the content that they express within this form. But when I had the first version of the translation of this poem, I was quite satisfied with the form, but later, the next day, I checked the content, and well, it was not the translation of the content of the Russian poem that I really wanted. So I searched for a long time, and later I found the words that expressed the ideas that I really wanted to express in this poem, like the interpretation, the kind of adaptation of the ideas from the original poem, though these words could not create very beautiful form. I am quite satisfied with what I have right now. Well, so this was first two small topics combined into one small talk. The first one about creating my own texts from the words, English words that are united by one particular topic. And second, about the form and the content of the poems when they're created by the great poets, and when I struggle to create something that resembles the poem. Next. Okay, the next idea is more scientific, more programming, and I think that in future I'll try to shift into these programming topics, because I need to practice the programming vocabulary. And I remembered that 10 years ago, when I think since 2008, since 2009 till 2015. So for 5 years I was a fan of Linux, and first I just installed Linux as the second operating system to the computer that we shared with my mother, and I installed different distributives. No, I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. Maybe since 2011. Anyway, I installed different distributives like Mandriva Linux, Ubuntu Linux, maybe OpenSUSE Linux. They all came from the box. I installed them like the ordinary operating system from the graphical user interface, And I liked this new experience with the form of the operating system that was different from Windows. I liked VLC player, then browser that was available for and also I installed and used Debian. So they all had some custom or maybe some unique video players, what else, browsers, text editors and other stuff, and I used them and I really liked them for the form. And of course the core functionality of Linux was different. Like, I liked very much that I could perform all the actions that I needed from the terminal. And in Windows, command line, CMD, console, CMD, command line, it was quite restricted, yeah, because in DOS it was the main center of functionality. But when the graphical user interface came with Windows, I don't know, maybe 3 and 1, maybe Windows 95, 98, and command line was just the tool to perform some administrative tasks. So I liked very much that Linux had this extended functionality for command line for the terminal. Later I used Arch Linux for a couple of years, and I installed it from scratch. Well, I installed it from the distributive, but this distributive, the installation process was, I think at that moment the installation process was performed using pseudo graphics. That was alright, because I tried to install Gentoo Linux on my computer for some time, and I always had lots of problems with drivers for Wi-Fi or network, video, audio components. And to resolve these issues, I needed to find, download and install, compile and install the packages from Gentoo of alpha or beta versions, because these packages were not official at the time. So in the end, I didn't have so much fun just finding and installing all the elements that I needed to work with Linux, and I switched to Arch Linux. It gives more control over the operating system and the computer than Ubuntu or Debian with pre-installed graphical user interface, of which was GNOME in the case of Ubuntu. But Arch Linux was not so much pain in the ass compared to Gentoo distributive. So I successfully installed all the necessary components for video, audio network, and other stuff. And Arch Linux started with the with the naked terminal without any graphical user interfaces. I don't remember right now, but I think I started something like typing start X command, and this command initialized and ran the graphical user environment of maybe GNOME, yeah, with all these lots of screens, with lots of desktops and other stuff that is usual for the operating systems like Windows. Yeah, I remember this. At work, at some point, I installed Linux, and I just learned some basic, not basic, but the most useful commands that I used all the time, and I typed them, like start Axis, which is the graphical environment on the computer, then shut down by typing the command in the terminal, and all other stuff. And my purpose was not to spread the viruses over my working operating system, which is quite possible if you just run the file by double clicking it. Yeah, on Windows you always need to rename the exe file or the DLL file into something which can be run or which can't be run by Windows. But on Linux you never have such problems, because you can't possibly run any exe file from Windows, any Trojan, any virus on your Linux distributive. So it was very useful for me. I performed all the necessary tasks in Linux using all the utilities that I need, but to check the functionality of the virus itself, I used the virtual machine with Windows installed inside this virtual machine, and it was the same as with working on Windows, because you can't possibly run Trojans or viruses on your working machine with the installed Windows. For checking Trojans, you need to install the virtual machine with Windows and then execute the Trojans inside this virtual machine. So because using Linux was much safer for me, and because it was interesting for me to learn some utilities from Linux world. I worked on the Linux machine, but I checked I checked Trojans in the virtual machine with Windows. Wow, all this stuff I just remember like on the go, on the run, not only without any preparations, but without any recalling it for the last almost 10 years. And when I talk about it, I have like images of me sitting in front of this Linux machine, typing some special commands in the terminal and doing other stuff. And that's why it takes me so long to recall, to say all this stuff, because I really remember it. And maybe several videos later I will talk about it again, but in the context of recalling more information more actions that I performed on Linux, and it will be much faster and much more informative than I do it right now. But it is quite impressive anyway that I remember all the stuff just from the memory without previously reading anything on this stuff, because I really didn't use Linux for the last 8 years. Anyway, another the small topic I wanted to talk about that concerned Linux was about the difference between the Windows manager and the file manager. And this is a popular topic in the world of Linux, but when I read about it using only Windows, I couldn't understand the difference between the file manager and the Windows manager. And in Windows, they say these two terms are combined into one, and you can't make kind of combined into one, and you can't make any difference. But when I got into Linux, I found the example for the window manager, and then I understood what they were talking about. So what they had been talking about. Anyway, what is file manager? This is more simple idea. This is more simple idea. The file manager is the way, Windows, the graphical user interface operating system that works in that shows the results in this graphical environment, and the users works in this environment. Even terminals in the form of command lines are displayed in this environment. So file managers are at least two types of, let's say, programs that allow you to watch, manipulate, and control the files on your computer. The Explorer, which is this graphical program that exists maybe above maybe, I don't know, maybe above the core of Windows, and with which you communicate all the time. This Explorer kind of consists of all the windows. When you open this Explorer, you have this windows with, I think, yellow folders, and you can navigate into different disks, like disk C, then C, and into different folders inside these disks. On these disks, like C semicolon / Windows System32 and so on. And inside these folders you can see files, and these files, like exe files, DLLs, PDFs, docs, video files, MP3 files, they all have some form to be showed in within the windows of the Explorer. I mean, you can now, starting from Windows 7, you can use window button plus the arrows on your keyboard to kind of programmatically put the windows to the left, to the right, to occupy the whole screen, and to return back to the original form. And for example, when you put two windows aside, or maybe close, or I don't know, you put the windows and they touch each other with in the middle of the screen, yeah, but one window occupies the left part of the screen, the other window occupies the right part of the screen, and in these windows you can change the view of the folders and, for example, the pictures. When you have in these folders, the picture is another type of the files that you have, like JPEGs, PNGs, and other stuff. So you can see all the files and folders within these windows, like just like not the grid, like the grid, yeah, but like square objects that go from left to right, and then to the bottom of the window. Or you can change the view, and all the files will be showed as the list. Each file will occupy just one row with some thumbnail for the file, the name, and some information like the date of creation, the extension. This all depends on what options you will check, you will turn off in in your settings. Anyway, these are the types of views that you can get within the windows of Explorer. So you can set to, for example, if you need to move the files from one folder to the other folder, like with the mouse, for example, you can put open to folders in this two windows side by side. Yes, I remember this word, side by side. And then you can set the view options to be the lists in the left window and the right window, and it will be easier for you to use the mouse to move let's say docs or PDFs from one folder to the other folder. It's much easier if you need to move like 100 files than if you try to get some files when they are in the form of big elements, big pictures. And then you need to switch to the other window that will overlap the first window, then paste this. Well, it's very difficult to describe this process without giving the picture of what's going on, and it doesn't have lots of importance in what I want to say. The idea is that you can manage your files in these windows in some particular way. But there is another that I know about, file manager which is Total Commander, and it is the application that you need to install on the Windows, and this application occupies the window the way your browser or PDF reader occupies the window. So you can move this window to the left, to the right, to cover the whole screen, or to be very small. But the Total Commander usually have two panels, and these two panels go side by side by default, and the files in these panels set like the list by default, the lists. So it's easier for you to highlight and move or copy the files from one panel to the other panel, where you can open different folders by using the keyboard, not the mouse, but keyboard. And there is the command line at the bottom of these two panels, where by the means of the keyboard you can type again different commands and the paths of the files in the panel, and then executing this command in the command line at the bottom of Total Commander, you can call the terminal where this command will be executed. And when you operate with lots of files, like doing reverse engineering over the Trojans, like in different antivirus companies, Total Commander is must-have application that helps you to perform your tasks much quicker than in Windows Explorer. So basically these are the two types of the file managers, and it's quite intuitive because you can differentiate the Windows Explorer from the Total Commander. But the other thing is Windows Explorer, and the idea behind it can be showed clearly only in Linux, because when you create some new window of in Windows Explorer, like you open some folder, for example, then your window occupies part of the screen, and it covers some of the windows that lie underneath this top window. And the same principle works for example, Linux with its GNOME, GNOME something environment, maybe like Windows Explorer, Ubuntu GNOME. But sometimes you can install very specific Windows managers when you, for example, start the first window and it occupies the whole area of your screen. So you can't like make this window less, so that it was of the shape of some rectangle line on your desktop. It always will occupy the whole screen. When you create the second window, these two windows on the screen will share the whole screen, and they will have the same size. Next, when you create the third window, the first window will stay half of the display, and the second and the third windows, they will share the halves of the right part of the screen. I think when you add the fourth window, it will divide the initial third window into parts. So the third window and plus the fourth window will be equal in size to the second window, and together with the second window they will be equal in size to the first window, and they all together will occupy the whole area of the screen. And this is what means to have the different window manager. So I understood this concept after working on Linux, but I returned back to the standard Windows manager like Windows Explorer or GNOME something, because it's more natural. It's easier when you can just make the window of any size you want, and then just cover it. And again, on Linux there was the option to create lots of desktops, and I could just put different windows on different desktops, and to move from one desktop to the other without switching between windows by covering by covering the old window by the new window. So I have almost 30 minutes of recordings, and now I'm going to stop this recording. It was quite it was slow. It was difficult to find the right words, because I even tried to find the right ideas. I didn't work with Linux for so many time. Maybe I should read again the introductory books for the Linux, and because I worked in Linux, it will be just the recalling of the process. It won't be like trying to learn some new technology through the books. It will be recalling the technology that I learned, but I forgot about it because I didn't use it for a long time. Yeah, so maybe I will check something on Linux, and in the future videos I'll try to explain some ideas from Linux more concisely, in more like fluent way, more quicker, and even more logically. But for now I fulfilled my well, in any way it's more interesting for me to talk about some technology, maybe the biographies of impressionists or Linux something, programming something, than just to retell the content of the movie about all this going from one place to the other, fighting and other stuff. Maybe it will be interesting to talk about some abstract ideas from philosophy, but again, I need to find the materials that I can retell in English to talk about it, because the philosophy is the subject when I can't just find something that will be like philosophically based, not just from my head, and it will be quite easy and interesting to tell in English. And with that, that's all for today's 51st video.